Welcome to the second QBat tutorial. In this video we will learn how to create and run heat transfer simulation in a complicated battery consisting of 4 groups of cells and 4 cooling plates. The cooling plates will be coupled hydraulically with cooling fluid flowing between them. All files and meshes were prepared beforehand and are available at our website. First, we will define the cell prototype. Instead of using a fixed source term like in the first tutorial, we will use an RC model of a battery. The RC model consists of 2 resistors and a capacitor. The capacitor is used to model the delayed thermal response to a changing current. To use the RC model, the material data spreadsheet must include R0, R1, and C values. Parameters can depend on temperature and state of charge. This can be done by inserting T and SOC columns next to the non-constant parameters. We also specify the mesh size. This is not required unless you want to coarsen or define the mesh, and the default value is set to 1. Now we can display the prototype and check the mesh. Next, we put the cell in the simulation domain. In this case, we will specify a location matrix of 2 cells to place them simultaneously. After the cells are created, we can combine them into an assembly. After finishing the cell, we can create the second component, the bottom cooling plate. Once again, we define the prototype first. As cooling plates often have complicated geometries, it is recommended to create them in 3D modeling software and mesh them using Gmesh. We also need to define the pipe radius, the material properties of the cooling plate, and the coolant. The coolant properties can also depend on temperature. Additionally, we specify pipe discretization due to its significant length and bend shape. This is not a required parameter and is set to 30 by default. Note that we have not specified the IDs of pipe walls, inlet nor outlet. After running the create prototype command, a figure showing the cooling plate opens. At this point, manual selection of the pipe walls is possible. Left click allows you to select walls, while the right click opens a menu. You can choose to either hide the selected walls or select the highlighted walls as the pipe walls. Hiding walls is useful as it allows you to see the pipe, which is usually hidden inside. Make sure that you select all of the walls that constitute a pipe. After selecting the pipe walls, the figure closes automatically and another one opens. In the new figure, you can see a wireframe model of the cooling plate. You can select the edges using left click. Under the right click menu, you can see Mark Selection as Inlet and Mark Selection as Outlet options. Marked inlet and outlet edges are displayed in blue and green. Once you are satisfied with your selection, select Done from the right-click menu. You can check your choices using the Display Prototype function. Once the prototype is created, we need to insert it into the simulation domain. The second cooling plate contains an S-shaped cooling channel. We create its prototype similarly to the previous cooling plate. Once again, we can check if the pipe has been selected properly. The cooling plate is then inserted into the simulation domain as a component. Now we can combine the battery cells and cooling plates into an assembly. We want to simulate contact paths between the components, so we need to specify contact thickness equal to 1 mm and contact conductivity equal to 1 watt per meter Kelvin, typical for contact paths. As you can see, 5 contacts between the components have been created. We can use the display components function to display the created module. Now, we will create a second battery module, creating new components based on the same prototypes, specifying new location matrices. For the sake of convenience, we combine the names of all cooling plates into a single variable. We can now set the boundary conditions for the cooling pipes and specify the initial condition. The current profile, combined with resistance and capacitance of the cells, is used to calculate battery heating at every time step. After loading the profile, it needs to be assigned to the battery cells. Lastly, we connect the cooling plates. This way, coolant exiting one cooling plate will retain its temperature when entering the next one. The battery model is done. We can now compile it and run the simulation. If you have access to the parallel toolbox, you can enable the software to use multiple threads when assembling the model. As you can see, some warnings appear when compiling the model. They are caused by missing mass flow initial condition in the pipe. However, the initial condition is not needed, as the mass flow will propagate from the boundary condition. Once the model is compiled, we can run the simulation. We specify the length of time step in seconds and the number of time steps. Additionally, we add maximum allowed residuals, maximum number of sub-iterations, and number of sub-steps of the electrical simulation. After the simulation is done, we can post-process the results. We can plot maximum temperature of a component over time, minimum temperature of a component over time, the average temperature of a component, we can also post-process fluid properties. For example, we can plot coolant outlet temperature over time. This is the temperature of the coolant exiting each cooling plate. We can also plot coolant temperature profile at a select time step. We can also plot the temperature contours in the whole domain. Additionally, we can plot electrical parameters, such as state of charge, and current profile. Finally, we can export the solution to external data format, such as CGNS.